In this video, they promise with 3 tricks that they can reverse visceral fat and insulin resistance. Is that too good to be true? Or is it the real deal? Hi, I'm Dr. Eric Westman, and welcome to my channel where I review and debunk nutritional misinformation online. Thanks for sending this video. We're going to be watching an influencer who promotes a certain dietary approach talk about insulin resistance of visceral fat. So she does a great job of explaining what visceral fat is and presents some tricks, some methods, some things you can do to reverse visceral fat, and she has done that herself. So be sure to wait till the end where I give my final thoughts. Before I dive into today's video, I want to let you know about something special. Enrollment is now open for my online course, Keto Made Simple. If you've ever struggled with keto because it felt too complicated or you weren't sure if you were doing it right, this course was made for you. I'll walk you through exactly what works, step by step, with no gimmicks, no guesswork, and no complicated tracking. You'll also get live Q&A sessions with me and my team, plus 3 weeks of support, so you'll never be on this journey alone. Enrollment is open until October 27, and I'd love to see you inside. You can find the link right below this video. Now, let's get to today's video.
Most people think belly fat is just the stuff that you can pinch, but the real danger is the fat you can't see. It's called visceral fat, and it's quietly wrapping around your organs as we speak. In this video, I'm going to share with you 3 powerful tips to melt visceral fat fast. These are the exact steps my husband and I use to slash our own levels. Goran has cut his visceral fat by over half, from 9 pounds down to 4 pounds. And I've dropped mine from 2.24 pounds right after I delivered my twin boys down to 0.67 pounds currently. Here's what you'll learn today: what visceral fat actually is and how it sneaks up on you, the best way to figure out your true visceral fat levels, because guessing doesn't work, and finally, 3 strategies you can start using today to melt it away and reclaim your health. Stick with me until the end, because once you understand how visceral fat works, you will never look at belly fat the same way again.
You know, there's a kind of explosion of people helping other people online, on the internet. And, what do you do? How do you handle this? Back in the day, you would ask, well, where did this doctor get their training? And where did this nutritionist get the training? And now you have just average, typically they're above average people, but you have non-medically trained people doing a diet or changing the lifestyle, and they have results. They write books on the topic. And actually a lot of them are really helpful. And it's one reason why I'm part of a group called the Society of Metabolic Health Practitioners, where we train people, not just doctors, to help people change their lifestyle, and low carb and keto is a part of it. So in this video, we have someone who is really kind of a super user, had her own influence in a good way from dietary change, and has gotten the information together. And I think this is really important, to be able to communicate the knowledge in many different ways.
So what exactly is visceral fat? Visceral fat is the fat that builds up deep inside of your body, around your organs. The problem is, fat doesn't belong there. Unlike the fat that you can pinch under your skin, this type of fat is highly inflammatory and linked to serious metabolic problems. It usually shows up when your body is metabolically unhealthy, or when you've met something called your personal fat threshold. That simply means that you've maxed out the amount of fat that your body can safely store in fat cells. Once that limit is reached, the extra fat starts spilling over into other places where it doesn't belong, like around or on your organs. Now, visceral fat is generally worse in men than it is in women. That's because women naturally have more places to store fat due to childbearing, which gives us a higher personal fat threshold.
Yeah, I think that's a great description of what visceral fat is and why you want to be worried about it or concerned about it. There might be a bit of fear-mongering, but I think it's just educating. And sometimes if someone feels well, they might not be concerned about this. So I think it's kind of an appropriate level of explaining why you want to be concerned and take action about it.
It's time to take action. Tip number 1 is one of the fastest ways to start melting it off, and that is an ultra low carb diet, such as carnivore. Trust me, once you see the results, you'll understand why this is such a game changer. So what does carnivore mean? It's simple. You cut out all the carbs, all the sugar, grains, fruits, and vegetables. And you focus on animal-based foods like beef, poultry, pork, seafood, and eggs. When I started carnivore, my own results were dramatic.
Yeah, so carnivore diet is a very low carbohydrate diet, so you're not giving any foods that raise the blood glucose and the insulin. And that's really the power of it for diabetes and for weight loss. Other diets that are low in carbs, that have some carbs that aren't carnivore, or even some other diets that are super low in calorie levels will also work.
On my DEXA scan before I started carnivore, I had 2.24 pounds of visceral fat. And now, 3 years into carnivore, I'm at 0.67 pounds.
And that is pretty amazing just using a diet. I should also mention that medications do this as well, but then you take on the risk of the medications and the expense. Sometimes they're very expensive. So why not just do it with diet alone?
Now, if you have a lot of weight to lose, including a lot of visceral fat, you need to pay attention to the way that you're doing carnivore. I recommend a moderate fat, higher protein approach. Don't drown everything in butter or extra fat just for the sake of it. Stick to the fat that naturally occurs on the meat that you're eating. And at least once a day, swap out a fattier cut of meat for a leaner one.
Right. So do you want to burn the fat in the food, or do you want to burn the fat on your thighs? That's the trade-off. And I totally agree. If you're trying to lose fat off your body, the visceral fat, you don't want to follow someone who's been pushing a lot of fat butter and all this to get at macro levels. And that's perhaps when you're at your goal. I don't even want people to measure that. I have a simpler system. But at first, you don't want to be adding in fats if you're trying to lose your body fat. Totally agree.
First off is intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting is the easiest place to start. Intermittent fasting just means that you don't eat for a certain amount of time and then you only eat during a certain feeding window. The most common is fasting for 16 hours and then eating all of your meals within an 8-hour period. One simple rule that makes a huge difference is not eating past 6 p.m. Stopping eating earlier in the evening gives your body a longer window overnight to burn fat.
Yeah, so intermittent fasting is, in my mind, a natural thing. You don't have to force it. If you're not hungry, you shouldn't eat. And that means a lot of people will eat just one meal a day without having to white knuckle the hunger through the time when you're not supposed to be eating. So I think intermittent fasting is a natural outgrowth of a keto diet that cuts out your hunger is okay. You don't have to be fueling yourself, much like going around town in your car. You stop and fill up your gas tank every couple hours, even though you haven't gone very far. You don't have to be eating so frequently.
The next type of fasting is water fasting. This just means consuming only water for anywhere between 1 to 15 days or more. My husband, Goran, did a 14-day water fast and saw incredible changes in his visceral fat levels.
So the water fasting, so if you're in the clinical setting, you're on medications, you're seeing a doctor for other reasons, I wouldn't go farther than the intermittent fasting. You want to be under medical supervision. You want a doctor who knows how to take you off the medicines when they're too strong. So this is where, if I had a wand on the internet, I would say these are clinically important issues, or this one, you want to not do this if you're on diabetes medicine unless you're being supervised by a doctor or using a continuous glucose monitor. So that, or maybe there could be on the video, not appropriate if you're taking medications, or use caution if you are. But I think the audience for a lot of these influencers is non-clinical. So they don't feel compelled to say these things because they've never seen it. And so when I take away medication, sometimes it's on the first day of the dietary change. For example, insulin, I might remove all the insulin on the first day. And if you don't, you'll get a low blood sugar. So just beware that these are medically prescription strength types of modifications of the diet. It's very powerful.
The next style of fasting is protein-sparing modified fasting. This is where you keep your protein intake high and your carb and fat intake very low, giving your body just enough fuel to preserve muscle while burning fat aggressively. I tried this with a 10-day sardine fast and saw a dramatic drop in visceral fat on my DEXA scan. Fasting is flexible, it's free, and it's one of the fastest ways to push your body into fat-burning mode. The key is picking the version that works with your lifestyle and sticking to it.
So remember, she called it the sardine fast. Well, you could do the egg fast, or you could do another very low carb, the red meat fast. The fasting really just means you stay to that food. And remember, these are all very low carbohydrate foods. So you're going to be getting the healing of fat burning and ketosis.
In my opinion, intermittent fasting daily is key, and then throwing in one other fast per week. So a 24-hour water fast, maybe a 36-hour water fast, or maybe a 24 to 36-hour protein-sparing modified fast, and doing that every single week is the best way to aggressively burn visceral fat.
That reminds me of a fast that Dr. Atkins and his clinic used, where they purposefully lowered the calorie amount and put the fat level up. So it was like macadamia nuts and cream cheese, but the amount of food was only 1,000 calories a day. So they constrained it. So they called it the fast that Dr. Atkins used. I would like to see more research on all of these types of fasts to compare, contrast. In the meantime, the way Jenny says it is, use the one that works for you, but beware that these can be prescription strength, meaning you have to be careful and you may get over-medicated from medicines that need to be adjusted down while you do it.
Now, fasting helps burn the fat, but to really lock in those results, you need movement. Tip number 3 is all about zone 2 cardio and strength training. Let's start with zone 2 cardio first. This is steady, moderate exercise. Think a brisk walk, cycling, or using a treadmill, where your heart rate is elevated, but you can still hold a conversation. Zone 2 is so effective because it directly trains your body to use fat for fuel. And over time, it increases your metabolic flexibility. To implement this, aim for 3 to 4 sessions per week of at least 30 to 60 minutes. It doesn't need to be intense. You're building endurance and fat burning capacity. You are not going all out. Now let's talk strength training. Muscle is your metabolic engine. The more muscle you have, the more energy and fat your body burns around the clock. Strength training also prevents muscle loss if you are losing weight or fasting. To implement this, focus on compound lifts like squats, deadlifts, presses, and rows 2 to 3 times per week. If you're brand new, body weight movements like push-ups, lunges, or planks are a great place to start.
So Jenny has been in my clinic over the last few weeks. I think most of my patients that I've seen have been unable to exercise. I mean, even doing anything because of knee pain or back pain, or they're just so heavy they don't have the energy to do any of this. So if you had a prioritization, the diet's the most important, and you don't have to do all these other things. But if you can, I'm really in agreement that the best way to hold on to your muscle mass while you're losing fat mass is to do the muscle training and eat protein. And that's what she's talking about. So I like this video. It's translating the scientific information in a very understandable way. And yes, it's just giving one type of diet to reverse the visceral fat, but that's okay. If you had to list all ways that are possible, that would just distract you from trying something that is really effective, like a carnivore or ultra low carb diet. As she says, we would call this the low carbohydrate ketogenic diet, meaning it's a low carbohydrate diet and it's sufficiently low to induce ketones. And this is a similar kind of version of diet that we've studied and published papers on for years now. The adding exercise and having the fasting can be helpful. I would like to know, really how important it is. Maybe do some studies and people to see if it's necessary. Some people even tell me when they add exercise, things slow down. And so there's probably going to be some individual variation there. But the audience here for this video is not a clinical one. If you're on medications, you want to be careful about that. But I think this was great advice and great education about what visceral fat is and why you want to get rid of it. I hope that's helpful. If you'd like, please like, subscribe, and ring the notification bell. Look out for new content Wednesdays and Fridays. If you enjoyed this video, consider joining our YouTube membership for early access and exclusive live Q&As with me. Just click the join button below or support us with a PayPal in the description.